African leadership is taking another dimension entirely. I repeat, leadership in Africa is taking a different dimension. Leaders are rising. Leaders that are willing to liberate Africa. Leaders that have sacrificed their lives for the freedom of their people, rising on the African continent. And when you start mentioning names, you must mention Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I repeat, when you start mentioning names of African liberators, you must mention Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The same Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is facing prosecution in the Nigerian court. The Nigerian government has charged him for terrorism because he is playing the Pan-African role of fighting for the freedom of his people. Now, on the 8th of May, so many things transpired in court. Let's look at what transpired in court on the 8th of May. Tinubu's government is taking a different approach to prosecuting Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, different from that of Buhari. Tinubu's government has tried to link Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to Simon Ekpa, and also video and audio of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is being brought to court by the Tinubu administration in order to nail him or connect him to a crime. Let's look at what transpired. We have the prosecution counsel and we have the defense counsel. Now, defense counsel is that of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB with other Biafrans. Then the federal government is the prosecuting counsel, Tinubu and the federal government. Let's start. The defense is led by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Paul. There's a letter sent to the court on the 7th of May, which the defense counsel was seeking for its authenticity. But on the 8th of May, this letter was presented. Now the defense counsel said that it has no objection of the authenticity of the letter written by former Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, under Buhari. Now, the prosecutor, which is the Nigerian government, requested that a certain video is being played in court of Nnamdi Kanu's interview. Now, looking at the video of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's interview, when he was extraordinary rendition in 21, they played it in court. Now, there's a witness brought by the federal government, second witness brought by the federal government. That witness is sitting. The prosecution counsel, the defense counsel will interview or examine the witness. But now, the federal government is asking that witness a question. Looking at the video, it says, can you identify the people in the video? Witness says, yes, I can. Prosecution asks him, who are the people in the video sitting next to Nnamdi Kanu? The witness says, Aloy Ejimako and Habila, both of them are lawyers. Now, the prosecution is asking Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the federal government, you made a broadcast. Kanu answers, okay, which broadcast? I made so many broadcasts. Which particular broadcast? So the prosecution says, we mean the broadcast made during the NSAS protest. So the federal government wants to use the broadcast of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu during the NSAS protest to establish a claim that is guilty of some of these count charges of inciting the public as written in that letter. Now, this is what Nnamdi Kanu answered. The purpose of my broadcast of that NSAS protest was because the army was killing protesters in Lagos. So that was the answer. Video still playing. Now, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu continues by asking the prosecutor, you keep asking me questions about NSAS. Why don't you ask me about IPOB in 2015, 2016? We are Republican in nature. So you cannot control 100% of everyone's activities. That is the Southeasterners. We operate a Republican system of government. We don't operate monarchical, whereby one person will be the eyes and ears of everybody. If one person says go, everybody will just go sheepishly. Republican, we need to deliberate on a certain directive by a certain authority before we take action. Now, you keep asking me questions about NSAS. Why don't you ask me about IPOB in 2015, 2016? Yes. You say, how do you pass your message to your people? That is the prosecutor asking Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, how do you pass your message to your people? He says, we have the Directorate of State. Okay, now let's move on. Now, the video is still playing. Interviewer: but you are aware IPOB members attack security personnel. But you are aware IPOB members attack security personnel. Nnamdi Kanu says, not at all. I completely disagree with you and reject that statement. I run a non-violent organization. Now the interviewer continues, but your instructions led to jailbreak and other vices. What's your reaction to that? Nnamdi Kanu says, we are not violent people. Say, when were you arrested? A following question: I wasn't arrested, I was kidnapped. That is from Nnamdi Kanu. Okay, what's your relationship with ESN? Nnamdi Kanu answers, ESN is a vigilante group that's everywhere. Okay, the interviewer says, you established ESN. Nnamdi Kanu says, yes, to protect our people and our farmlands. Now the video is still playing. The question we ask now is, what's the difference between ESN and other vigilante groups? If you look at the psychology of these questions, if you are listening to what I'm saying, you understand that the fragment is trying to establish a case, an argument that Nnamdi Kanu is guilty of whatever crimes they are alleged that have been committed by whoever. Okay? What's the difference between ESN and other vigilante groups? Nnamdi Kanu says, I can't say. Mine is to make sure our land is secured. The governors have failed us and we need to protect our lands. The interviewer says, how many people are in ESN? Nnamdi Kanu says, I can't recall. Remember who the interviewer is the federal government, the prosecutor. You gave instructions to people to attack federal infrastructure. What did Nnamdi Kanu answer? If you say you have control over Biafrans or Easterners, you are mistaken. We are Republican in nature. We do things, especially what is right at our own accord, not necessarily adherent to dictation. Unique about the Igbo people. So the interviewer asked again, you pass instructions to your people. Nnamdi Kanu answers, I lead the movement, but the day-to-day operation of IPOB is done through the Directorate of State. Nnamdi Kanu says, you are talking about incidents that happened after EndSARS. Why don't you ask me of what happened 2015, 2016, 2017, etc. I know the reasons why these guys are dodging what happened in 2015 when the attack on Nnamdi Kanu's house, the killing of IPOB that were using normal placards to protest, which is a right of every Nigerian and everyone through the constitution. But the army had to go and they brought down so many people, typical of the Nigerian security system. Okay? Now the interviewer says 2021 there were attacks. The interviewer didn't want to go to 2015, 2016 and 2017. The interviewer, which is the prosecutor, says 2021 there were attacks. Nnamdi Kanu says, I am aware the army killed a lot of people in 2021. Okay? He continued by saying, the movement I lead is not violent. The interviewer says, your instructions lead to jailbreak. etc. Nnamdi Kanu reacts, my reaction remains that we are not violent. Now the interviewer asks the question, when were you arrested? Nnamdi Kanu interject the question. I wasn't arrested, I was kidnapped. Interviewer. So if we keep going on and on at what transpired in court, we need to bring a picture of what the federal government is trying to establish with the case of Nnamdi Kanu. However, we expect that after all this, the defense will establish their own case. And at the end of the day, Nnamdi Kanu will be free. There's no basis. From what I'm seeing, there's no really basis. When you look at the question and answer, in the eyes of the law, you need to establish beyond reasonable doubt. Beyond reasonable doubt. Two things. Igbos are Republican in nature. If you say my directive led to this, the people you are saying carried out whatever, your allegations, they don't hit directions just like that. They don't just hit directions. That is one basis. Another basis is that I do not lead a violent organization. Whatever that is violence is created by the Nigerian army, the Nigerian security system. So that is what is established. Having said that, I urge President Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu so that he can be free for his people. The Igbos are in detention as we speak. So that he can be free. This is one person that can unite the Igbos and not just our charlatans who call themselves governors or whatever, leaders or amnesia, whatsoever they are calling themselves. I know they don't want Nnamdi Kanu to come out. They will do all they can to make sure that Nnamdi Kanu does not come out from detention, because they really need Southeast governors to give assurances, because that's how a Nigerian government works. No matter how you want to look at it, Nnamdi Kanu is at the mercy of the Nigerian government. However, they must prove that he's guilty. And like I said before, the approach Buhari took is different from that one that Nnamdi Kanu, that Tinubu has taken. So they have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Nnamdi Kanu is guilty of any crime. However, they need to address for the fact that they have the jurisdiction to try him. Hence his presence in the court. You are a kidnapper. You kidnap somebody and you are trying to go to a court to address what? You kidnap somebody. You are trying to go to court to address what? I don't understand. No. That's why when people are supporting a kind of government, a government that stole an election, they're expecting that government to perform. That is why in the past 60 years, we have seen nothing. So you cannot kidnap somebody and have the right to prosecute that person. So address the mode at which he is available in court, or what led him to leave Nigeria, and how come he was dragged or kidnapped or seized from Kenya. How did that happen? Is it legal? The action of the government, was it legal? You establish that first before we talk about any other thing. I will repeat it. When you talk about Pan-African leaders in Nigeria and in the world entirely, African leaders, top African leaders, the name of Nnamdi Kanu is written in that hall of fame. In that hall of fame. We understand that Nigeria is not one. We are divided along every kind of line. We resent ourselves. We are just managing to be together. We are just pretending that we are together. Despite the fact that we are so religious. Christianity does not look at difference in tribe or whatsoever. But yet people who go to church, who are pastors, still are greatest bigots, hater of a different tribe. Even Islam is a brotherhood thing. There's no language, there's no tribe in Islam. But among people who practice Islam, the hatred is beyond, is extreme. Extreme. Even if religion cannot unite us, we are divided along ethnic and religious lines. How do you think that we can cope as a country when we resent and we hate ourselves? You see, some people, what pains me the most is that we have a bigger problem, but we have not really settled our little problem amongst ourselves. We have a bigger fish to fry. We have problem of the West. You see, all these things that is happening, they are the ones that created it. This division, they are the ones that created it. Whatever you see, somebody is behind the scene creating it. Because I don't know why, as a person, I would just have so much hatred for another black person, African. When we have people that are white, that detest us, I've said this before, that if not for the natural resources that we have, should be the education. Now you both give us education. Which education? Is there any African education that we are surviving with today? Somebody was saying that there was a picture of the president's table, President Tinubu's table. Picture, papers, phones, copier, and what have you. Almost everything on that president's table is being imported. So what is our own that we are using? So whatever is happening today is well orchestrated by these imperialists. And we are too blind. We are too stupid to acknowledge that. Too blind and too stupid and foolish to acknowledge that we are being played by these people. But yet, we want to destroy ourselves. Why don't we unite ourselves in southern Nigeria and make sure we push for an ideology that will put Africa first. Nobody is going to interfere in anybody's heritage except the Fulani. If you say the Igbos are the problem of this and that, personally, as an Igbo person, I don't see that as, I don't see anybody that is doing that, maybe is doing that out of his own. It does not represent the whole tribe. We as people, we can tolerate ourselves and live together. It is this democracy that they introduced to us that makes some people, this one will say, Lagos is no man's land. You want politically. It is because of democracy. If we sustain our regional system of government, we will not be here trying to discuss whether it is democracy or not. No. If we sustain our regional system of government, there's Oduduwa, there's Western Nigeria. So somebody will come and become a government in the Southwest region. No. In the Southeast region, no. People were developing at different kind of pace. The British, the imperialists, were not happy with the progress Nigeria, which they created as a country, is making. So they had to somehow, you know how they, through the back door, they introduce certain policies and certain systems that is destroying us today. If in Southeast, we have the Southeast region, say Fulani, will they try the rubbish? They are trying. If we had Southwest region, would the Fulani try the rubbish? They are trying. There's nothing wrong with us. It is the system that has been introduced. And when people try to fight to break and destroy their system, the establishment now calls them terrorists. When you try to see, Nigeria is an anathema. Nigeria stampedes or impedes the growth of its people. Nigeria, as it exists, the people will never get good governance, dividends of democracy. Dividends of democracy. Nigeria will not get it with the way we are formed. So the more reasons why we need to restructure whatever way, whatever guys, we are bleeding as a people. Some people think, okay, because they are okay, and that is life. They have not traveled, they have not seen those days. Our grandfathers, they enjoyed Nigeria. We are not practicing democracy then, but they enjoyed Nigeria to the fullest. Regions will give free education from you, what jobs are waiting for you. The government is transparent and what have you. Regional system. Competition between the eastern, northern, and the western region. But the government of the day, although it is Nnamdi and Nnamdi that scattered the whole thing. There's no referendum. Somebody abolished regionalism, which is the best ever. You don't have any angel to come and tell you, to confirm that regionalism is better than what we are doing today. That the system is flawed. The system is working against the people at all. The reason why I fight the Fulani is because the Fulani, they are the tools used by these imperialists. There are people that are waiting to scatter anything called progress. Now the tax bill, some parts of the tax bill have been passed. Although I'm not too happy with the tax bill being passed because it is no different between the old and the new one, just a slight. It is not even restructuring. I don't know, the government should be serious on what it's going to do. This is not even restructuring. The Northerners are slowly having their way. They have come to a compromise. I think Tinubu is being bullied here, looking at that restructuring that has been passed. We wanted a robust whereby every region will reap from its hard work. If Lagos is making the most money, they will get most percentage. Most percentage. Places that are not productive should suffer so that they can find ways of being productive. If it's Abia State that is not productive, let Abia State suffer. So everybody will sit down and start thinking. Maybe when we sit down and start thinking, we'll now realize the truth for ourselves. That we need an urgent restructuring. I was expecting the tax bill to fulfill that, but still, we are still romancing the status quo. I've told you. Even with the Biafra I'm asking for, or the regionalism or resource control, we also run a class society. And it is what benefits the upper class that reigns supreme. This democracy we are practicing is a government for the upper class, not the government of the masses. The people now are the upper class. Don't you know that if there's a policy and the people speak against it without the upper class also lending their voice, no, there will be no change. There will be no change. Of course, the people have no voice under this democratic system you're practicing in Nigeria. Your voice does not count. It is the voice of the structure of criminality on those that call themselves upper class, the upper whatever, that count. For instance, you can't come out and protest. Look at what happened with VVDM. Look at what happened with Tinubu and the factional Nnamdi president that, according to his video, he was bullied. All of a sudden, maybe they were stopping VDM from talking about the issue because they know that that guy in voice will get weight on that issue. Maybe they had to bring him in and silence him a bit. During the time that he's in the prison or whatever, you see that we saw a statement from the Atiku Issa, factional Nnamdi president, that is sorry, is this and that. So it is important. Nnamdi Kanu is very important for African liberation, for enlightenment of the people, to be able to realize that their destinies is in their hands. So Tinubu, part of the restructuring, Nnamdi Kanu is part of, you releasing Nnamdi Kanu is part of restructuring Nigeria. May God help Nigeria.